Hello folks, and welcome back to another video. I'm Louis and I'm back at Euston Wall, the hottest, sexiest new gym in London, and we're going to be going over my 5 most basic tips for beginners. I work as a coach, I teach people all the time, and I do tend to see newer climbers making the same mistakes over and over again. So I'm going to save you loads of time. You don't need to go to any beginner lessons. You can just watch this video and you'll now know the 5 most basic mistakes to avoid as you get started with climbing. Let's get to it. All right, folks, so tip number 1. Now, lots of you might know this already, but if you're very new to climbing, this seems to be a common error that people make over and over again, and I know exactly why that is. Let's talk about how we place our feet on the holds. Now, the most common thing I see newer climbers doing is placing the middle of their foot on holds like this. The reason they do that is that the middle of the foot is the strongest part of the foot. Like, that feels really, really secure. If I'm new to climbing, this feels like a very weak thing to do, whereas this, yeah, okay, very happy with that. Now, although it might feel more secure initially, my advice is do not practice this. Try and practice instead standing on your toes, because although it feels more secure, there are a few specific issues with standing on the middle of my foot. Number 1, I can't see where I'm standing. If I stand on my toe, I can see the rest of the hold. I know exactly where I'm placed. If I'm on the middle of my foot, I can't see anything. So no idea what I'm standing on. Other issue, I can't feel what I'm doing either, because although it's more secure and stronger, the middle of my foot is a lot less sensitive than my toes. So if my toes are on it, I can feel the shape of the hold. I can feel how I'm applying pressure to it. If my toes are over here though, I can't feel anything. And then the most important reason, I think, is that when I stand on my toe, I can swivel back and forth on a hold and change position. If I stand on the middle of my foot and try and swivel, I just fall off straight away. So I would say don't stand on the middle of your foot, practice standing on your toes is tip number 1. Beginner mistake number 2 that I see very, very frequently is using too much strength. And I mean that in a whole variety of ways, from squeezing the holds really, really tightly when it's not necessary, to pulling really hard with their arms where they don't need to, but also things like not reading the climb well enough and ending up doing a really inefficient sequence, or not resting in between your attempts and ending up using a lot more energy that way. Although when we climb, we're full of adrenaline and it feels like we do need to grab everything as if our life depends on it, a lot of my practicing climbing revolves around trying to work out what the minimum I can give to each hold or position might be. Whereas when I started climbing, I didn't pay attention to looking for the minimum, I just put in more strength than I needed on every move. So when you're climbing, start really paying attention to how tightly do I actually need to grab this hold? Could I relax any more into this? If I'm in a certain body position and feeling like I'm straining with my arms, can I relax any more and save some energy there? The more you practice that, the easier it gets. The third mistake I see beginners making is, after having used a lot more strength than they needed to and fallen off the climb they wanted to do, they'll have a think going, oh, well, I tried really hard and I felt like I used loads of strength, but I fell off feeling really tired, so I must need to be stronger. And no, that's very rarely the solution, because as I was saying before, it might be that you're using a lot more strength than you actually realize. So having even more strength, as I know from my own personal journey with climbing, actually might not help anywhere near as much as you might think if you're already being quite inefficient with your strength. So before you go off and do loads and loads of strength training, just have a closer look at your climbing and check if that's definitely going to help you, or if learning to climb a little bit more gracefully and with a little bit less intensity might be a much better route to improvement. Number 4, one of the most common mistakes that I see actually not just beginner climbers making, but a lot of climbers making, is focusing too much on the grades. Now, the longer I climb, the more I dislike the grading system for a whole bunch of reasons. So let's talk about the ways that focusing too much on the grade could impact my climbing. Number 1 is, yeah, obviously the grades are exciting and progressing further and further into the grading scale is really, really aspirational. But if I focus just on, I want to do the next hardest grade over and over again, actually what I'm really likely to end up doing is not practicing a variety of climbing styles, but continually going into an ever narrowing niche of skills that I'm already good at. This is exactly what I did. I managed to climb like some pretty hard grades early in my climbing, but then I realized like, oh, I'm actually just doing harder versions of what I'm already really, really good at, and I'm not really learning anything by doing this. At the same time, although I thought I was making progress, I wasn't getting any better at the types of climbing that I actually needed to practice and improve. So focusing too much on the grades led me to not practice efficiently at a wide variety of climbing styles. One of the other ways that I think the grading system can really impact people's climbing is if they get onto a climb which they feel they should be able to do because it's below their maximum grade level, not being able to do that climb can be really, really frustrating and really annoying. And I think it's because it makes people doubt how good of a climber they are. I very much understand this. I feel like I should climb some pretty hard stuff. And if I come into a gym and am falling off V2s and V3s, it can feel really embarrassing and really frustrating because I know I can climb harder than that. I now feel a lot better about it because I'm very secure in my ability to climb V2s and V3s, and me occasionally falling off one of them doesn't change my belief that I can climb V2s and 3s. It takes a while to build that self-confidence, but don't let the grades affect your self-confidence. As I said, focusing too much on the grades can stunt our progress in various ways or cause us to get frustrated and demotivated in other ways. So just to back up my reasoning that I don't think we should focus too much on the grading system, in my opinion, and the longer I climb, the more secure I am in this opinion, the grading system is nonsense. We all talk about how subjective climbing is and how different it feels depending on height, size, strength, different skill sets. So to me it is then utter nonsense to talk about how subjective it is and then say that we're going to represent the difficulty of each climb with one number. You see how that doesn't make sense. So I would recommend either not paying attention to the grading system at all, or make your own grading system is the only method of grading that makes sense to me. I give a different grade to every climb basically every time I climb it. Sometimes I come in and I'm like, oh, that V5 feels like V0. And other times I come in and go, oh, that V5 feels like V10. It feels different all the time, so forget about the grades and just enjoy any climb that challenges you, regardless of what grade other people say it is. My final tip for beginners, and I think this is a really, really positive one, don't doubt yourselves too quickly. This is, again, one of the most common things I see in climbing gyms is people getting onto climbs or approaching climbs which I'm looking at going, oh yeah, they can definitely do that one. They're definitely strong enough, they've definitely got enough skills, but I watch the climber try it a couple of times, not be met with immediate success, fall off a couple more times, get a bit frustrated, then start rushing things and get tired quickly, and then walk away going, oh, stupid climb, I'm not able to do that. When I was looking at it going, no, you definitely were. You just stopped thinking, you started getting frustrated, and then you walked away assuming you couldn't do it. So my tip would be, when you're trying harder climbs, blindly assume that you are capable of doing it. And instead of falling off and immediately doubting that you're strong enough or good enough, instead fall off and assume, okay, well, I know I'm strong enough, so what trick am I missing to it? If you keep staying in that mindset of, no, there is a solution here, I just need to keep thinking, throwing different ideas at it, trying hard, you will get a lot more climbs than you'd expect. And you'll make a lot more progress on harder climbs that you might not be able to get yet. So don't doubt yourself, stay confident as you go through the trial and error process, trying hard climbs, and enjoy it. So there you go, folks. Those are my 5 most basic tips for newer climbers. If you've got a friend who's just got into climbing and you think, oh, they're rubbish, they keep making all these mistakes, send them this video. It will help them out loads. And as usual, team, like, follow, subscribe. I always say those, but those are the same thing. And click the join button. It's the best button to press. Everyone click that join button. I'll see you next time. Bye, folks.